Hello and welcome to part 1 of our GTFOing on the rails. So I talked about the fact that there are lots of continents, and this one is the Heterocera Atoll. And this map here shows us the entire atoll, and you can see exactly where the rail lines are. Now for most parts of the video we're going to be going on the orange one, down to the red one, and then we're just going to travel along the red one for this particular part of the video. I may make other videos. Well, the videos are going to be broken up. I'm going to break them up at each stop, otherwise they'd be about an hour long, which means you can watch them in chunks just to suit yourself, and if you've got a favourite chunk you can watch it without being put to sleep. I may well try and do the other branches, because as you can see there's quite a few of them, and it is actually quite a lot of area to cover video wise. We're talking potentially a few hours really. It might not look a lot on this map, but it really is a lot in actual real time. For this video I'm going to take us from here, which is Bedstraw, down to Barger, which you can see on the map in the southeast. We'll stop the video there, then we'll start the video again from there, and we'll go ourselves up to somewhere in between Clearwing and Foxglove, which will be the rail and train centre, and then we will go right the way around past Spinney, and somewhere between Spinney and Gibraltar, I think it's at least somewhere between Spinney and Gibraltar, we will arrive at the next station. And then in the fourth video maybe, we'll end up right down the bottom in Caleta at Smuggler's Harbour. So that's plenty for us to be getting on with, and plenty for you to be watching, and hopefully it will give you a bit of a view around the railways of Second Life and what's available. And then hopefully you'll be able to come along and enjoy it for yourself, and hopefully I'll see you on the rails. Come say hello, etc, etc. So something I'll point out here with this particular train that I'm using, which is the Infinity Freight train, it has a fuel system, and you'll notice, you'll see some stations have got these, and you may have come across them before on cars and other vehicles in Second Life. Just check because I can never remember the exact name of it. It is the NTBI GFS fuel system, which is supported by a number of vehicles, and this basically lets you put diesel in your train so that you can run it like in real life, so it uses up fuel as you're going. Now I'm going to res my train out, and what I'll warn you now, if you've never done railroading before, sometimes things won't res out on the tracks or on the sleepers, so try and get your drag out into the gravel in the middle, and that generally seems to be happy, and it'll put the train out. So here's my train, we'll jump on. The first thing I'm going to do is go up to my GTFO HUD, choose get cargo, choose freight run, and choose where we're going to go. Now we're going to go to Barger first, which is a really old station that's been around forever and was built by, I believe, built by the Linden Department of Works. I could be wrong on that. I will disclosure now, I don't know the full history of the railroads because they're older than me, but I can tell you what I do know about them, and if there's anybody who watches this video who does know the history of them, then please do stick comments on them, and I'll be more than happy to make sure people can see those, and we might all learn a little bit about the history of it. But to give you a brief history while I'm loading up, a lot of this was built under Michael Linden and was built around 2008ish time maybe. I certainly came over here in about 2008 and they had built the railways. However, they were expanding greatly after that. There was a lot more branch lines made and a lot of other things, and it's a really good system. You know, it's about the only part of the mainland that has a railroad, and you can go up and down it, and it's got areas that have been expanded that have two tracks to allow you to overtake each other. And there's a lot of spurs that have been built off, which have allowed places like this to exist, where people have built their own train stations and whatever, mainly for you to use, you know. So plenty of places to explore, and as you'll see from these videos, there's plenty of track and lots of things. And if you don't want to necessarily play GTFO along the tracks, you can just drive your train along there and just visit and explore places. I encourage you to do both, but playing GTFO in here is pretty good, and it's quite profitable because we're carrying a lot of, you know, big heavy stuff. It's worth quite a bit in the game. That of course is subject to change, as everything is in the game, but at this precise moment anyway, big goods runs like this, if you watch that there, it's loading the train. See it loading up? And that's the other great thing about this train, it does actually load up and unload when you're playing GTFO with it. and GTFO works with it out of the box. So you just buy this train, you res it out, and it works. You've got lots of functions on the train. I'm not going to go into them. I might do a separate video for that, but you can manually show the cargo or not. It's completely up to you. So as you can see, that's loading away. We're nearly loaded up. So I'm going to start the engine, click on the roof, click engine start. There you go, we've got our load there. Right, I've got 94% of fuel, engine's idle. Now, what is customary to do, the process for riding the railroads on here is to give 2 hoots on your horn to let people know you're about to pull off. There you go, and off we go. There's no speed limits necessarily set in Second Life on the trains. However, it's a common sense thing. You could tank along at 100%, but if you hit a laggy zone or hit a tough corner, you're likely to actually end up derailing. And it can get quite messy, as anybody who's been a resident on there will know for any time. When things go a little bit downhill, they tend to go very downhill. So, you know, discretion advised on what speeds you decide to drive at. Just looking around here on Bedstraw, as you can see, it's got lots of platforms here. Many of the platforms are available for rent, so, you know, if you want to actually have a train parked up somewhere and you can come online and then just drive it off and do your GTFO runs or whatever, you can rent the actual platforms here and keep your trains parked there. On the left here, we've got rentals as well for those that like to do the road side of GTFO with trucks and whatever. And here on the left, at the moment at least, is platform 15 is for rent. This is for someone who wants to open their own hub. So you can put a hub building there for your rail stuff and also your trucks if you've got your own virtual logistics company or whatever. So I'm going to head out here. Give it a little bit of speed. We're going to go under the tunnels. I apologise in advance that the tunnels don't look great on my screen because the camera angle, obviously I'm going to go through all the brickwork. In fact, I could probably help him to zoom out a little bit maybe. So you can't see the train, but it'll go under the tunnel. Just check out that panda there, look, panda and giraffe. That's D-Lab. I recommend you check D-Lab out if you haven't, if you don't know who D-Lab are. I believe it's a Japanese creator who makes some really cool stuff, which I recommend you check out because there's loads of fun vehicles and fun helicopters and all sorts of spaceships, you name it, they've got crazy stuff there. If you like gadget shop, pretty looking gadgets, it's definitely the place to go. Now you'll also notice this train seems to slow down a bit. It's got a bit of physics, so when it goes uphill it does actually slow down. You might want to put a bit more gas on when that happens. Now there's some auto signalling going to happen here, so you'll see that signal that was red there has just gone green because this place does that automatically. That doesn't always happen. You do have to control the switches yourself, and you will see me controlling the switches no doubt in this video, but I will explain the switches as we come to them and how they work. So this track here now that we're coming onto is the main line. This is actually the Second Life Railroad officially, and we're going to whack ourselves up to about 80% speed, and then we're going to chug along and show you the sights. Now the sights on the railroad change all the time, as they do if you're sailing around Second Life or anything else. So I always encourage you to go out and check all these things because they do change a lot, and that's the fun of it really. Every time I come out in my train, I never know exactly what I'm going to see. Something new will appear, something old will disappear. It's a never-changing environment, so it's always worth checking out. And I think it's a bit of fun to mix up your GTFO as well. If you're doing a bit of trucking, a bit of sailing, and then you can do a bit of railroading. So as you can see, a lot of these signals here are doing their own thing at the moment. I don't need to do anything. In general, they will change automatically as I get close to them, assuming no other train is coming down the other line. That's why I have the mini-map. If you can see somebody's on the line, then you've got some idea to sort of wait for them to pass if they're going to get there before you. There's a gentleman's agreement, I guess, there. You know, it's kind of... There's no railroad rules. If another train's coming towards you, most trains are phantom, so you'll pass through each other anyway. Generally, I'll just say hi and be friendly to the person coming the other way. I might peep my horn. If the person's in front of me and they're actually going in the direction I'm going in, I personally like the little bit of realism when I'm playing it, especially if I'm playing GTFO. So I'll follow them. You know, I'll actually go behind them. If they're playing GTFO 2, which many of them are, then I just follow along behind them. much as it would happen in real life. And they deliver their stuff, I deliver my stuff. Sometimes they'll go a different way, and then I'll go a different way. Or sometimes they'll get off and delete their train because they've done their run for the day, and then you just speed up and carry on. Now we're coming to a junction here, which is Crumbie Junction. This is like one of the major junctions in the railroad. This junction lets you go down to Barger, which is where we're going, which I consider to be quite an old part of this particular continent. It hasn't had a lot of updates, really. It's quite an old place. And this is where the track will naturally take me down to the left. Here you'll see the right spur. Now a lot of the journeys, if you're not going where I'm going now, you'd go to the right, and that would take you back where we're going to be going in the later videos. So here's the Crumbie Junction train station. You'll see there's a spur here to the left which takes you down to one of the other routes, which is also worth checking out. There, I don't know if there's any hubs down there. There might be. I think actually no, there is a hub down there, so you could check the hubs. I recommend you check all the hubs. I might go down there in one of the videos. I'm going to go on the main line for now, because this red line is the main line. We can always talk branch lines at another time. You'll see these JavaScript pods. There's a lot of the JavaScript pods about on the railroad. It's probably worth me mentioning they're a bit of a pain, bless them. They're a great thing, don't get me wrong, I'm not having a go at them. However, what you need to be aware of is they can change the signals. So if you see one of these things coming, just be aware that if it goes ahead of you, it will make the signal change. So if you've set the signal to take you down one way and a Java pod comes the other way, it'll change on you suddenly. So if you see a Java pod around, just be on your guard, because if it's not going the same way you are, it will change the points on you, and you will have to change them back, or you'll end up going the wrong way, basically. Now, as you can see here, a lot of this stuff is very old builds that have been here for years. Some of the early pioneers in Second Life have their scripted items here, and scripted artworks. I'm sure someone could tell us a story about the history of all this. I don't know where it all came from. I just know that a lot of this has been here for a long time. And we're now approaching the Barger sim, which is our first stop. And this is a nice flow, really, because doing it this way, we don't have to stop and go in an opposite direction, if you like. This gives us a nice flow, straight out of Bedstraw, straight into here. I have my own personal routes. I'm sure you'll find your own personal routes. But I like to come straight out of Bedstraw down here because it's a nice steady flow. And then I'll flip the train here and then go off back up the red line to do drop-offs around there, and it just has a nice flow, as I say. As you can see here, you've got lots of options. You could go into the little substation on the left. You can go to the right, which will take you down to the water, but you can't actually go anywhere with it. Now, you'll notice that there are buffer stops. These trains will actually stop at the buffer stop. So, I mean, you can slow it right down like I am for realism, but what I tend to do is slow it down a bit and then just let it, there you go, I just let it stop when it reaches the end. Once you're here, up here, click deliver, and like all GTFO vehicles, it will now start to deliver. And if we have a quick look at the actual train, you'll see it's actually going to start unloading its goods. There you go. And if I can get you a good view of that so you can see everything unloading. Give me a second. There you go, look. Watch it unloading some stuff. So that's the first part, that's the first video. So that was a little run taking us from Bedstraw on the orange line right the way down to the red line, which this is the end of the red line. It's the final stop on that point. We're going to flip it around in the next film, and then we're going to go around to the next stop, which will be the rail and train centre. So I hope that wasn't too boring for you, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any comments, do let me know, and we'll take you from the next stop and show you more of the wonderful railroading that you can do in Second Life. Bye for now.